When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
All right, we head to NDG for our next segment to discuss the Empress Theatre. Now, listen, you don't even have to live in NDG. There's probably been a moment where you've driven along Sherbrooke Street in NDG, and you've seen that old theater, the Empress, and it's got, metal fences in front, and you say, well, geez, that has been that way forever. Why don't they do something about it? Now, I know I've lived in NDG twice over the course of my life, and both times I've been scratching my head and wondering the same thing. Why don't they do anything with the Empress Theatre? Now, Montreal has owned it since 1999, and they're preparing to sell the historic Empress Theatre in NDG. But there are some warnings being thrown out there not to ignore the heritage value, the community attachment to the theater. It was built in 1927. Let's try and get the story of the Empress and what should be done with it with Camille Bédard, architecture historian, who has studied the landmark and describes herself as passionate about its preservation. Camille, welcome to the program.
Thank you. Good morning.
What should our listeners know about the Empress Theatre and its history?
So the first thing that they should know is that the Empress is a unique building in terms of its architectural style. So it belongs to a very precise and obscure, I would say, typology of the atmospheric movie theater, which is a movie theater in which moviegoers were immersed in a thematic environment. So they were transported, in the case of the Empress Theatre, transported into an Egyptian theme. And so this was meant to enhance the cinematographic experience because we didn't today when we go to, let's say, the Paramount or any other a generic movie theater, the experience, as I just said, is generic. Mm-hmm. The hall of the movie theater is the same. There's nothing spectacular about the design and architecture, but at the time, there was from the 1920s to the 1930s, movie theaters. They were unique and they were designed by architects, and people would go to the movies for the architecture and also for the movies, of course. So the Empress is the rare example of a movie theater designed following the Egyptian-inspired theme compared to many other movie theaters that were more that mimicked, for example, the Spanish Baroque or the classical temple or architecture. Mm-hmm. But Egyptian-inspired movie theaters are super rare. And in Canada, the Empress is the rare example. And actually not only in Canada, because movie theaters were built mostly, movie palaces were built mostly in North America. And among those that were specifically inspired by a theme, the Egyptian ones are really rare. So having a building like the Empress is one that should be preserved. And as an architectural historian, this would be my first, I would say, recommendation is for the city first, but not only the city, because city has a limited means in terms of historical preservation, but the province also should take care of this building to preserve its history.
Let me ask you, have you ever managed to go inside the Empress? Have you been inside there?
Several times. Actually, I was born and raised in NDG and lived there. Yeah, and lived there until I was 21. And I actually went to the Empress just before it was closed due to a minor fire in 1992. I was only a toddler at the time, but my mom was accompanying the group of my older sister who was in kindergarten. and we went to see a movie, All Dogs Go to Heaven. Then it was not, it was Cinema 5 at the time. So this somewhat like memory of the Empress and impression that it made on me, I don't know, for some reason, well, I was probably already like preparing to become an architectural historian, but the memory of the Empress stayed within me very deeply. And so I started doing research on the Empress during my bachelor's in art history at Concordia in a seminar entitled Space, Time, and Architecture. And we were supposed to do research on a building or a public place in Montreal. And I chose the Empress for some reason. And then I became just passionate about this building and the subject of historical movie theaters, especially residential ones. So in more like residential neighborhoods. And so in the fall of 2009, I went inside the building, I believe, 3 times. And then I pursued my research on the Empress in 2012 during my master's at McGill in architectural history. And I went back in the building, I think, twice. And then last time in 2014, because I had met over the course of the years Hélène Etier, who was in charge of Cinema NDG, the project that was selected to reopen the Empress. And so we went. Last time that I went in 2014 was with her because she was visiting with someone from the city and an architect.
And that's 2014, so that's a decade ago.
Exactly.
We're with Camille Bédard, an architecture historian. We're talking about the Empress in NDG and trying to save that historic theater. Now, I've heard it's in bad shape, like water infiltration over the years, and knowing that. You know, it feels like, I'd love you to give me your thoughts. It feels like, well, it's already over, right? Like we've let it fall into such disrepair. Best case scenario is you get it to a private developer. They keep the facade. They keep some elements as an ode, an homage to the past, and then you move on. Am I off base here, given the state of the building is in today?
Well, I wouldn't say that's the best case scenario because what I've discussed in my interview with Linda from the Gazette this week is that the building has a very important place in the community. So what my warning for the city to sell the Empress to a private developer is that this part of the program is neglected. I believe that the building has to remain, has to belong to the community because the memory of so many people and so many people have been in this building, and there are not that many artistic or cultural venues in that area, that specific area of NDG. So it would, there's a need for that.
But hasn't that idea led to it sitting there for 3 decades? Like, I'm worried, like, if we're just going to continue to do exactly what we've done for 3 decades and it'll just stay in disrepair.
There's a lot to say about the Empress. So the first thing is that the building has gone through several transformations over the year because originally it's a massive auditorium that could seat 1,550 people, which is huge. You don't never ever see that in normal in movie theaters now. But so the auditorium was divided into with a concrete slab in 1968. So that was the first alteration to the building and the Egyptian-inspired decor. But also, since 1992, the building has not properly been maintained. So you mentioned water infiltration. Winter in Quebec without heating, of course, that damages buildings. So there's a terminology in architectural preservation that is used in that case, and I believe it's the case for the Empress, and that's not the only outcome that can happen, but one that may happen is demolition by neglect.
Yeah.
people that are like owners of buildings or, political powers that do decide not to take care of building because, of course, it entails lots of resources. And I'm not only talking of financial resources, but human resources, material resources, and so on. And so what happens is that lots of buildings, and it happened to lots of historical movie theaters in Quebec. We're thinking about churches also, like buildings that are abandoned for so many years that at some point there's no way that the building can be saved.
And Camille, listen, we're out of time here, but that is a story we've seen repeated so often.
Exactly.
And that gets to my concern, which is, sometimes we want perfection, and because we strive for, the absolute best case scenario, we lose sight of the fact that maybe there are good options on the table. And then you end up with a situation like that. I've got to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us this morning.
Thanks for the invitation.
Architecture historian Camille Bédard